So how did the friends respond? They sit with him for a while, but when it's no longer appropriate to grieve, when the 7 days are up, or when they're dealing with him as he falls apart, they start talking. I think the thing in that beginning part is that they had an expectation of like, you get 7 days to grieve your whole entire life, and then you got to pick yourself up and keep going, right? We do that. We expect that. There are appropriate amounts of time to grieve. There are appropriate amounts of time or appropriate ways to fall apart, to be overcome by the suffering that's inflicted. But then when that's up, you gotta be all happy and joyful again. They judge, they accuse, they shame him. They look at his actions. They look at his behavior rather than his humanity. That's really important. We do that too. We often look at the people around us and look at what they're doing, what they're not doing, how they caused what's happening to them, instead of looking at the child of God that they are, the embodiment of God itself, right?
If we didn't do that, we wouldn't be sinners.
How do you mean? Oh.
The judging part that
right.
you're talking about.
Yeah. It's part of our sinfulness that we do that.
We wouldn't be sinners if we didn't do that.
Right. Yeah.
You know, if we didn't react that way, you know,
that's our job.
And it's our call to see each other as, you know, divine bearers of the image of God, right? You know? The friends arrogantly, and I believe dangerously, stand in for God and God's voice, telling Job how they think God sees, judges, and accuses Job. They think they're God. They think they're the judgers. They think they're the final say. They think they know God's mind, right? We do this too. We're all sinners, right? This is a mirror to our human experience. This is dangerous. When we think we are standing in for God, that's really dangerous. When we're doing that with other people's pain and story and suffering, that's really, really dangerous. And then I think the big thing that will come around later too is that they are seeking answers. They are seeking those theories to grasp onto instead of being in relationship with their friend. They were in relationship for those first 7 days. They were sitting with him. They were seeing him. They were place sharing with him. But all throughout the dialogues, they're just trying to figure out what happened. They're not actually wanting to be in relationship with their friend. They're not supporting him. They're not asking, what do you need? How can we love you right now? They're just trying to find answers. And we'll come back later that's kind of one of the key ways that God shows up differently. So, what do our friends say when they come to us? What are some of the things that we hear when we're in suffering, or that we have heard so many times that we want to say? Everything happens for a reason. That's a lie. Well, at least, your dog is still alive. At least this didn't happen. Like, that's just minimizing the pain. In my long life, I've learned that blah, 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 blah. It's gonna get better. I promise. Can you promise that?
It will at the end.
It will at the end. When you die and are raised in eternal life, right? Like, you can't promise that. God needed an angel. God had a plan. I've done some research, and I really think you should try this diet. I think it would solve all of your problems. I think you should read this book. When my aunt had cancer, she did this, and it really, really helped. All of these things are taking it off of the person, taking it away from the relationship, trying to find answers, trying to grasp onto any sense of control, trying to explain it. So how are you really doing? How are you really doing? Often people will tell you how they're really doing when they need to tell you how they're really doing. But when you force that on people, it can feel demeaning in a sense. When God closes a door, he opens a window. What I love about Job is that no windows were open. There were just closed doors for many, 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 many chapters. So that's not always true. God wouldn't give you more than you can handle. Stay strong. These are all from Kay Bowler's Everything Happens for a Reason. This is her list. I just copied it. But these are some of the things our friends say. These are some of the things we want to say when we're trying to grasp onto the unexplainable, right? This is the human experience. This is what it is to be a sinner. And Job is calling us into something else, another way of experiencing this suffering, another way of explaining it, working through it, living with it.